The single word, reckoning. Attention. If this kind of edge-of-your-seat drama is what you live for, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now. Don't miss a single second of the naked truth. Ladies and gentlemen, gather round and prepare for a story that will run you through the entire spectrum of human emotion. In this tumultuous tale of love, betrayal, and potential redemption, a charming millionaire husband, Julian Vance, stumbles home in the pre-dawn hours, drunk, with a young mistress clinging to his arm, only to discover his devoted wife, Cassandra Hayes, is waiting. Little does he know that in mere moments, his world will be flipped upside down by a single word from her lips. Friends become foes, secrets are unveiled, and destinies hang by a thread. Stick around until the very end, because this is a drama you will never forget. Part 1. The Rise and the Distance. Julian Vance wasn't born into wealth. On a cold winter morning in 1981, he was born in the small town of Cedar Grove, Texas. His parents, running a modest diner, taught him the value of hard work and the power of ambition. From a young age, Julian had an uncanny ability to see opportunity where others saw obstacles. This keen business sense, fueled by a relentless work ethic, propelled him to a top-tier university on a scholarship. It was during his sophomore year he met Cassandra Hayes, a brilliant and empathetic psychology student who lived 2 floors down. She was, in many ways, Julian's antithesis. While he possessed an almost ruthless ambition, she believed in the importance of human connection and compassion above all else. Where Julian was swept away by lofty dreams of millions, Cassandra anchored him, reminding him of empathy and integrity. This balance built the foundation of a strong, healthy relationship, culminating in marriage shortly after graduation. They moved into a small apartment in Austin, where Julian landed an entry-level position at a tech startup. Cassandra worked at a non-profit supporting underprivileged families. Their life was humble, their apartment small, but their love felt infinite. The meteoric climb. Success came quickly for Julian. He rose at a dizzying pace. His shrewdness in deal-making and his instinct for profitable niches earned him the respect of mentors and eventually the attention of venture capitalists. By his mid-30s, Julian Vance had orchestrated a series of astute investments that catapulted him to millionaire status. Cassandra, always the supportive wife, stood by him. She was proud of him, not for the money, but for the realization of the potential she'd seen. However, with greater affluence came an undeniable shift. Julian's schedule became frantic. Their previously intimate relationship began to face new pressures. Cassandra tried to keep their connection alive, but most times, Julian was glued to his phone or departing for a last-minute business trip. Despite everything, Cassandra's faith in Julian never wavered. He was her husband, her best friend, and the father of her unborn child, a secret she kept, waiting for the right moment to tell him. A silent tension began to brew beneath the varnish of success, threatening to explode at any moment. If you are already feeling Cassandra's rage and pain, hit the like button on this video. We want to know how many of you have faced a similar betrayal. Part 2. The Whispers and the Lies. As months passed, their new mansion in the exclusive River Oaks neighborhood felt cold and empty. Cassandra couldn't pinpoint when the distance truly began. Each small disappointment, a canceled date night, a rushed business trip, eroded her sense of togetherness. She was patient to a fault, always offering compassion where frustration would have been reasonable. Julian's career was the celebrity, and Cassandra's philanthropic work, though gratifying, was often overshadowed. At galas, journalists flocked to him, leaving Cassandra on the sidelines. In those moments, She felt like a supporting character in a play bearing her husband's name in bright lights. The magnetic mistress. It was around this time Cassandra noticed subtle changes in Julian's behavior. Long hours spent texting or whispering into his phone, and a newfound secrecy with his devices. Then, a glimpse of the truth emerged at a charity auction. Cassandra saw a beautiful, elegant brunette in a glittering black dress, particularly close to Julian, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm, whispering in his ear. Her name was Victoria Cruz, a rising star in the real estate world. Cassandra tried to ignore the knot in her stomach, but something about Victoria's effortless confidence and the way Julian's eyes lit up when talking to her made Cassandra uneasy. Julian, meanwhile, found an insidious desire for something outside his marriage. Victoria was everything Cassandra was not at that moment. Bold, exciting, and untethered from the constraints of domestic life. Their shared interest in modern architecture quickly escalated to late-night dinners under the pretense of discussing business. The step from emotional closeness to physical intimacy was quick, culminating during a business conference in Las Vegas. He felt a strange mix of euphoria and power, certain he could maintain both his home life and this new thrill. Victoria, a practical opportunist, was happy to fuel his ego, showering him with praise and enjoying the gifts he provided, including a receipt for an expensive diamond necklace Cassandra later found in his jacket pocket. The ticking clock. Cassandra kept her mounting suspicions to herself. She refused to confront Julian directly, telling herself she needed more certainty before making accusations. Besides, she was pregnant. Adding another layer of stress might worsen an already precarious situation. Julian's oldest friend, Marcus Green, noticed the shift and discreetly warned Julian about crossing boundaries. But Julian dismissed him with defensive anger. The tension thickened. Julian sensed Cassandra's shift from gentle worry to cautious detachment. She wasn't asking as many questions, but he perceived an undercurrent of suspicion whenever their eyes met. One evening, Cassandra casually mentioned joining him on his next business trip. His immediate reaction, a forced smile, a mumbled excuse that it would be too technical and boring, was almost a confession. Cassandra retreated to the master bedroom, her hand resting on her abdomen. Her baby, a new life. The father of her child was looking more and more like a stranger. If you were Cassandra at this point, what would you have done with the expensive necklace receipt you found? Would you have confronted him immediately or waited to gather more evidence? Leave your opinion in the comments. Part 3. The inevitable collision. Victoria Cruz saw Julian as a gateway to the upper echelons of wealth and influence. Her affair was more than a fling. It was an opportunity to secure her place among the city's elite. She enjoyed the lavish gifts and the bragging rights that came with being involved with one of Austin's business giants. She viewed Cassandra as an obstacle, a relic that needed to be pushed aside. Rumors circulated, reaching Marcus Green, who confronted Victoria, warning her to stop manipulating his friend. Victoria's response was glacial. "He's a grown man, Marcus. He makes his own choices." Meanwhile, Cassandra's secret pregnancy began to weigh heavily. Her doctor, Dr. Evelyn Shaw, urged her to take it easy, warning that excessive emotional turmoil could be harmful to the baby. But how could Cassandra relax when her life felt like it was teetering on a cliff? Cassandra finally decided she could no longer ignore the signs. She began meticulous, heartbreaking work, noting down every oddity. Cryptic texts, unexplained credit card charges, like the recurring charge for a private lounge called the Amber Room, and the nights he claimed to be working late. Every new clue felt like a physical blow. One fateful afternoon, Marcus called. His tone was cautious but firm. He confessed that he suspected foul play and encouraged Cassandra to confront Julian directly. After a sleepless night, Cassandra found a final piece of evidence, a glimpse of Julian's phone, with a text from VC saying, "Can't wait to see you again." The stage was set for a confrontation that could not be avoided. The final humiliation. The night began as many others. Julian claimed a business dinner at an exclusive downtown restaurant. Cassandra pretended acceptance. She knew not to believe him. An hour before his supposed meeting time, she drove past the Amber Room. Sure enough, tucked away in the VIP parking was Julian's sleek black Maserati. Her heart seized, but she drove on, too paralyzed by fear and heartbreak to confront him in public. Hours later, well after midnight, Julian stumbled through the front door of their mansion. Except this time, he wasn't alone. Victoria Cruz, in a tight red dress and stilettos, was clinging to his arm. The smell of liquor emanated from them both. Cassandra, who had been sitting on the living room sofa, bolted upright. She stared at them in disbelief. Despite all her suspicions, she never imagined he would bring his mistress into their home. The sheer disrespect made her stomach turn. Julian's glazed eyes struggled to focus on Cassandra's face. Victoria, however, was more than willing to speak. With a half slur, she said, "Oh, didn't think you'd still be up." Cassandra felt a flash of hot rage. "Clearly, I'm not the only one who misjudged the situation," she said, her voice trembling. Julian tried to steer Victoria toward the stairs, but Cassandra blocked his path. "Julian," she said, her voice low. "What are you doing? How dare you bring her here?" Victoria let out a drunken giggle. "He's just showing me where he lives," she said, leaning heavily against the banister. "We were celebrating a deal." Cassandra stared into Julian's face, a terrible realization dawning. His shame-contorted expression confirmed the depth of the contempt in this act. Julian had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Ignoring Victoria, Cassandra looked at her husband with a mixture of anguish and steel. "Get her out of my house," she ordered, her voice shaking. "Right now." Victoria resisted, the drunken bravado fueling her. She turned to Cassandra with a sneering smile. "If you really cared, you'd realize you two are over. He deserves someone who can keep up with him, not a wife stuck in domestic boredom." Cassandra's hands clenched into fists. She felt a deep protective instinct surge, not just for herself, but for the life growing inside her. Finally, Julian managed to shepherd Victoria back out. The front door slammed shut behind them, leaving Cassandra in a stunned silence. Minutes later, Julian returned alone, looking haggard and defeated. "Julian, he started, but Cassandra cut him off. "Don't say anything right now. I can't even look at you." She walked away, leaving Julian in the foyer to sober up to the harsh reality of his actions. As the house fell silent, Julian slumped against the wall, head in his hands. "If Cassandra's inner strength inspired you, give us a super-like right now. Do you think she will be able to forgive Julian? Tell us what you think in the comments box." Part 4. The single word. The next morning, the Vance mansion felt eerily silent. Cassandra woke up to an empty space beside her, though she had no desire to see Julian. There was a strange clarity beneath her pain. The time for a final reckoning had come. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror, her eyes puffy, but her spine straight with resolve. She gently pressed a hand to her abdomen, reminding herself that she was not alone. Her unborn child depended on her. She found Julian sitting at the dining room table, nursing a cup of black coffee. He looked disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. When Cassandra entered, he stood abruptly, grasping for words. "Cassandra, She raised a hand to silence him. "I don't want to hear meaningless apologies. I want the truth." "Victoria was just a mistake," he mumbled. "I was drunk." "Stop," Cassandra interjected, her voice quiet but commanding. "Don't insult my intelligence. I know this has been going on for a while. I am not interested in half-truths. Julian's shoulders slumped. I'm sorry, he finally managed. I never meant for it to go this far. You brought her here, she said, her voice trembling. To our home, Julian. Do you realize how disrespectful that is? After everything we shared, you humiliated me in my own house. Tell me, do you love her? Julian hesitated, and the silence was excruciating. Finally, he shook his head, eyes downcast. No, it was never about love. Everything we built together, our marriage, our home, our future. How could you throw it all away? I don't want to lose you. She looked at him, heart hammering. Then why didn't you stop? You lied to me all those nights. You lied to yourself. I can't explain it, he choked out. I was stupid, selfish, chasing the thrill, I guess. You have to believe me. I never wanted to hurt you. A bitter laugh escaped Cassandra's lips. But you did, Julian. You tore us apart. She then swallowed, steeling herself for the words she never imagined saying. I'm pregnant. He snapped his head up, shock and confusion registering in his eyes. You're pregnant? He repeated, his voice shaking. Why didn't you tell me? When you were never around, and even when you were so distant that I was afraid it would just add more strain. But now, after everything, her voice faltered. Julian seemed paralyzed, as if the enormity of what he had done was sinking in for the very first time. Cassandra, I don't know what to say. Then, with stunning determination, Cassandra pronounced a single word that cut through the chaos like a knife. Go. She paused, letting the word resonate in the silence. You can come back when you've decided who you want to be, and if there is any space left in my heart to forgive you. But for now, go. I don't want to look at you. I don't. Julian stood there, stunned, unable to process the command. Cassandra, she pointed toward the door. Go, she repeated, her voice as cold and definitive as a judge's gavel. Without another word, he grabbed his keys and left, the door clicking shut behind him. The mansion was silent once more, the weight of Cassandra's single word still reverberating in the air. The open ending, Cassandra sank into a chair, sobbing silently, clutching her abdomen. She had never felt so vulnerable, yet so powerful. For years, she had fought to hold her marriage together, enduring heartache after heartache, hoping Julian would return to the man she once knew. But now, she realized, real love demanded respect. And sometimes, the strongest act of love was to stand up for herself, even if it meant letting him go. She had given him a devastating truth and a single word of dismissal. Go. But the question remained. Did Julian Vance deserve a second chance as a husband and a father? His life was shattered. His empire was momentarily stable, but hanging by a thread of her control. He walked out the door into the cold Texas morning, with nothing but the clothes on his back and the crushing weight of his monumental mistake. Will the sight of his pregnant wife and the prospect of fatherhood shock him into true redemption? Or will his toxic ambition and ego lead him straight back to the welcoming arms of Victoria Cruz, who is undoubtedly waiting to scoop up the shattered pieces of the millionaire she helped create? The future of the Vance family, the marriage, the empire, and the unborn child rests entirely on what Julian chooses to do next, and what Cassandra, the woman of infinite patience and sudden steel, decides she can bear. Do you believe Julian deserves a second chance as a father, given the single word dismissal? Go? Share your theories with the community in the comments. If Cassandra's strength inspired you, show your support by hitting the like button and subscribe for more stories of resilience and hope. You are absolutely right. My apologies. I will ensure the continuation of the story is entirely in English, following all your saved guidelines, compelling narrative, updated character names/settings, interactive questions, and CTAs. Here is Part 5, The Price of Go in English. Part 5, The Price of Go. Did you miss the shocking reveal? Make sure you've hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more unbelievable true-life dramas. Scene 1, The Wanderer. Julian Vance drove his black Maserati aimlessly for hours. He didn't go to the office, nor did he head to the Amber Room. He just drove through the quiet Austin neighborhoods, the morning Texas sun rising to expose the raw shame he carried. The impact of Cassandra's confession, "I'm pregnant," had hit him like a physical blow. It wasn't just a pregnancy. It was a testament to her enduring belief in them, a stark reminder that even as he was tearing their life apart, she was building a future. He recalled her gaze, not anger, but cold, absolute disappointment. And then, go. It wasn't a divorce decree. It was an expulsion, a suspension. She had put his destiny squarely back into his hands. He finally found his way to a discreet, upscale hotel downtown. He ordered black coffee and tried to focus on his phone, which held dozens of unread work messages. But one text message, threaded between them, snagged his attention. "Where are you? Last night was wild, but perfect. Let me know when you're done with the domestic drama. I'm waiting at my loft. We have a lot of celebrating to do, baby." Julian stared at the text. Celebrate? He had just lost everything, and she saw it as a cause for a party. The glamorous trap Victoria laid now looked like a hollow, gilded cage. He had chased the thrill and exchanged it for stability. Julian slammed the phone onto the table. He needed to talk to someone who wanted nothing from him. He called Marcus Green, his oldest friend. Scene 2, The Confession and the Challenge. Marcus arrived within the hour, his face etched with concern. "What the hell is going on, Julian? Your phone is blowing up, and what happened with Cassandra?" Julian recounted everything, sparing no detail. The affair, the ugly truth, and the pregnancy confession. Marcus listened in silence, only shaking his head gently. "You brought her home? That's an insult beyond measure, Julian. Cassandra never deserved that." I know, Julian groaned, burying his face in his hands. "But Marcus, she's pregnant, and she only said one word to me. Go." She put the ball back in my court. What should I do? Should I get divorced? Should I choose Victoria? Marcus put a heavy hand on Julian's shoulder. "Your answer is staring right back at you, my friend. The girl you snuck around with, what did she text you after you shattered your life?" Julian didn't answer. "And Cassandra, what did she do? After you humiliated her in her own home, she still prioritized your fate over her anger. She drew a boundary, Julian, and she gave you a chance to choose to be the man worthy of your child. I'm scared. I'm afraid I can't go back to being that man." Marcus squeezed his shoulder. "That's what Cassandra gave you. It's not forgiveness, Julian. It's a test. If you were Marcus, what single, non-monetary piece of advice would you give Julian right now to help him start earning back Cassandra's trust, knowing she is pregnant? Share your wisdom in the comments. Scene 3. The Wolf Waiting. Victoria Cruz was not pleased. She had anticipated a clean win, not a sudden disappearance and a frigid text message from Julian saying he needed space. Victoria sat in her sleek downtown loft, sipping champagne. She had done everything right. She was bold, she was magnetic, and she had forced the confrontation. She viewed Cassandra's pregnancy as a final, desperate play. She picked up her phone and called Denise Lowe, her closest confidant. "He's cooling off," Victoria scoffed into the phone. The wife pulled the classic pregnancy card. "I told you she was domestic baggage. But I won't lose this. I need him for the Vance Cruise Development Fund to launch, and I need that mansion." "Victoria, you should back off," Denise warned. "Julian's a mess right now. If you push, you'll look like the opportunist everyone already thinks you are. You broke the marriage. Let him initiate the final split. Victoria ignored the warning. She knew Julian's ego. She needed to offer him an escape route that looked like a promotion. She sent him another text, this time shifting the focus entirely. The River Oaks property deal closes next week. It needs a firm hand. Focus on that. Forget the house. I'll meet you at the office tomorrow. Let's build our empire, Julian. She was offering him power and a future without Cassandra, a distraction that appealed directly to the only part of him she truly respected, his ambition. Scene 4. Cassandra's resolve. Back at the mansion, the silence was deafening. Cassandra spent the day in a cocoon of grief, but as the hours passed, the tears gave way to an icy focus. She realized she had two choices: become a victim or become the architect of her new life. She called her mother, Eleanor Hayes. Cassandra did not hide the truth. She laid out the entire, humiliating saga. Eleanor listened, her voice tight with contained fury. "You gave him go?" Eleanor asked. "That was strong, my darling. But now, you must be stronger. He needs to realize that his choices have consequences that money can't fix." "I don't want a divorce, Mom," Cassandra whispered, clutching her stomach. "Not yet. But I can't live with a ghost and a liar." "Then you reclaim your life," Eleanor stated. "You don't wait for him to choose you. You choose yourself. You choose that baby." Cassandra sat down at Julian's massive mahogany desk, the desk where he plotted his deals and sent his secret texts. She opened her laptop and accessed the files for the Vance Foundation. She was done being the silent figurehead. She began reviewing the foundation's bylaws, meticulously checking the legal framework for the philanthropic branch. She was Julian's wife, a Vance director, and now, the sole guardian of their future child. She had legal standing, and she intended to use it. If Julian wanted to play a high-stakes game of separation, she would ensure she controlled the resources that mattered most: the public image and the moral compass of the Vance name. She was no longer the quiet student of psychology. The betrayal had forged her into a strategist. Cassandra is now planning to take control of the Vance Foundation's public image and finances. What is the very first public move she should make to signal to Julian and Victoria that she is serious and independent? Put your CEO strategies in the comments. The path forward. Julian, still holed up in the hotel, saw Victoria's text about the River Oaks deal. It was a lifeline that appealed to his deepest instincts. Focus on power. Forget the mess. He was tempted to take it. It was the easy path, the familiar adrenaline rush. But then he looked at his hand, tracing the faint impression left by Cassandra's wedding ring, which he had reluctantly taken off that morning. He thought of the child. His child. A new life depending on him. Julian closed his laptop without responding to Victoria. He knew he had to make a choice, not a business choice, but a moral one. The price of go was not just his marriage, it was his very identity. To come back, he would have to tear down the empire of lies he had built and prove, through actions, that the humble boy from Cedar Grove still existed beneath the millionaire's facade. He stood up, looking at his reflection. His journey back to the mansion, to his wife, and to the man he was supposed to be, had just begun. But the hardest part wasn't the going, it was the earning. And Cassandra was an unforgiving judge. Julian has a choice to make. Will he choose Victoria's empire of vice or Cassandra's path of redemption? Hit the notification bell so you don't miss Part 6, The Unforgiving Judge. Part 6, The Unforgiving Judge. Did Julian make the right choice? Watch the video to find out, and if you haven't yet, like and subscribe to see if Julian can handle Cassandra's judgment. Scene 1. A choice is made. The silence in the hotel room was broken only by the hum of the air conditioning. Julian looked at the two screens before him. On one, Victoria's text. offering a world of power, excitement, and no messy consequences. On the other, a grainy picture of Cassandra, radiant on their wedding day, that Marcus had sent him. He knew what he had to do. The Maserati was a statement of his old ego. He left it parked at the hotel. Instead, Julian walked a few blocks to a dusty rental office and rented a simple, unassuming Ford pickup truck. It felt wrong, but deliberately so. He was shedding the skin of the millionaire. He drove back to the mansion, arriving just as the afternoon sun hit the massive, ornamental gates. He didn't use his remote. He rang the bell. Cassandra answered the intercom. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "Yes? It's me, Cassandra. I'm not here for an argument. I'm here because I made a choice, and I need to respect yours." A long pause hung heavy in the air. Finally, the gate slowly hissed open. Julian walked into the foyer, where the faint scent of Victoria's cheap perfume from 2 days ago still seemed to linger. Cassandra was standing at the bottom of the grand staircase, looking less like a fragile wife and more like an ice sculpture of resolve. She was holding a large ledger book, the Vance Foundation ledger. "I didn't go to Victoria," Julian said quietly, his voice raspy. "I drove a truck here. I'm not running from my responsibility. I know sorry is meaningless now. I'm here to ask you what I can do." Cassandra didn't move. Her gaze was steady. "I made my choice 2 days ago, Julian. The word was go. It was a command, not an invitation back." Scene 2. The reclamation of power. "You can't stay here," Cassandra stated, her voice stronger than he'd ever heard it. "You violated this house. This is a safe space for me and my child. I've already spoken to my attorney. You will be served with temporary restraining orders that prohibit you from entering the premises without express written permission." Julian nodded slowly, accepting the blow. "Where do I go?" "That is your problem, Julian. But since you asked what you can do," she lifted the ledger in her hand, "you will start by addressing the consequences." Cassandra had not wasted time. That morning, she had been working with her own lawyer and the Foundation's long-standing compliance officer. "As a director of the Vance Foundation, I am enacting a full, external audit of EL Foundation finances and spending over the last 6 months," she announced. "The optics of you leaving on the arm of a known real estate developer are devastating to our public image. Any deals or investments made by you that financially benefited Victoria Cruz will be made public and reversed. This will be done to protect the integrity of the Vance name." This was a masterful strategic move. She wasn't attacking his private business. She was attacking his reputation and cutting off Victoria's financial lifeline, all while positioning herself as the moral guardian of the Vance legacy. Julian stared at her, stunned. "You're going to publicly expose Victoria's deals?" "No," Cassandra corrected, a flicker of something dangerously close to triumph in her eyes. "I am going to publicly expose your deals that harmed the Foundation's credibility. Victoria is merely collateral damage. Julian has lost his home and is facing a public audit orchestrated by Cassandra. What is the smartest, immediate non-business-related gesture Julian can make from afar to show he is truly remorseful and focused on the baby? Tell us in the comments." Scene 3. Victoria's fiery response. Victoria Cruz had been tracking Julian's phone. When she saw the tracker stay silent at a low-end rental lot near the mansion, she knew Julian had made the wrong choice. The rage was immediate. She called Julian, who was now standing outside the mansion gates, preparing to drive away in his rented pickup. "Are you insane, Julian? You left your car at the hotel and drove a truck back, and now your wife is talking about audits?" Victoria shrieked. "It's over, Victoria," Julian said, his voice void of emotion. "You were an escape, and now I have to face the mess I made." "An escape? You coward! I gave you an empire. Your wife is a pregnant, calculating bitch who is trying to bankrupt me to protect her legacy. She's protecting her child, Victoria. And if I hear you insult her one more time, I will personally ensure every one of your River Oaks deals is flagged by the SEC. You used me. And now you're paying the price." He hung up. Victoria screamed into her silent phone, but her carefully constructed world was crumbling. Cassandra, the domestic baggage, had just delivered a tactical blow that threatened to expose Victoria's entire fragile financial network built on Julian's influence. The Queen of the Thrill was now running scared. Scene 4. The hard road ahead. Julian drove away in the anonymous pickup, now headed to a modest condo Marcus had quickly secured for him. He was effectively homeless, jobless, and disgraced. His lavish life was over. He knew he couldn't fight Cassandra's audit. She was right. He had been reckless. He contacted his corporate lawyer and instructed them to fully cooperate with the Foundation's compliance officer and to release a statement that he was temporarily stepping back from all business dealings to focus on personal matters. The statement was vague, but it was a step toward public integrity. Back at the mansion, Cassandra watched the rental truck pull away. She sank onto the sofa, the strength leaving her body. The momentary triumph over Julian and Victoria didn't erase the pain. She was alone, pregnant, and preparing for a war she never wanted to fight. She had given him a path back, but it was paved with accountability and public shame. The judge had issued her first ruling, and the sentence was hard labor. Julian Vance had to tear down his old life brick by painful brick if he ever wanted to step back into the circle of light she guarded. She gently placed the Foundation ledger aside and rested her hand on her stomach. "It's just you and me now, little one," she whispered. The road to forgiveness was long, and Cassandra Hayes was an unforgiving judge. Julian is on his own, and Victoria is furious. What extreme thing will Victoria do next to try and stop Cassandra's audit? Drop your predictions in the comments. Don't forget to ring the notification bell for Part 7, where we see the aftermath of the public scandal. Part 7. The aftermath of the scandal. Victoria is cornered. Will she risk everything to fight back? Hit the like button and subscribe, so you don't miss a beat of this escalating war. Scene 1. The public unraveling. The audit initiated by Cassandra Hayes, acting as a director of the Vance Foundation, hit the press with the force of a nuclear expose. The headline wasn't about adultery. It was about misappropriation of charitable funds for private gain, all while Julian Vance was temporarily stepping back to focus on personal matters. The official statement from the Foundation's compliance officer was clean, mentioning that a full review was underway to ensure all investments aligned with their charitable mission, implicitly throwing Julian under the bus. The fallout. Julian's reputation. He became a pariah. His Austin business contacts dried up instantly. His image shifted from self-made visionary to reckless, entitled fraud. The vague personal matters excuse now seemed like a transparent cover-up. The deals. Cassandra's strategy worked. The audit flagged several philanthropic investments that were thinly veiled real estate ventures involving Victoria Cruz. 2 key River Oaks properties that Victoria was counting on were frozen pending investigation. Cassandra's image. The press hailed Cassandra as the moral guardian of the Vance legacy and the heart of the Foundation. She wasn't just Julian's wife. She was the ethical backbone he lacked, earning public respect and sympathy. Scene 2. Victoria's desperation. Victoria was financially and professionally cornered. The freezing of her key deals meant she couldn't meet her financial obligations, and the public scrutiny had terrified her investors. She saw only one way out: a desperate, high-risk counterattack against Cassandra. She knew she couldn't win on the facts, so she decided to weaponize the only thing the press loved more than a scandal: a pregnant wife's broken heart. Victoria contacted the city's most notorious tabloid, the Austin Insider, promising an exclusive, intimate story titled, "The Truth Behind the Audit. Julian Vance was driven away by a controlling, manipulative wife." Her narrative was simple. Julian was miserable in his sexless, lonely marriage to a controlling woman who only cared about his money. She would paint Julian as a victim and herself as his only true emotional connection. She planned to release compromising photos and private messages, all while publicly dismissing the audit as a vengeful act by a jilted pregnant woman. Scene 3. Marcus's warning. Julian, now living a solitary life in the modest condo, was trying to restructure his life. He was cooperating fully with the Foundation audit, reviewing old financial records, and quietly liquidating some personal, untainted assets to create a trust for the baby. He had started small acts of penitence too, not toward Cassandra, but toward the future. He hired an interior designer to begin planning a nursery in one of the mansion's empty rooms, a gesture Marcus suggested he should communicate only through her lawyer, showing he respected her space. Then, Marcus burst into Julian's condo, holding a newspaper. "You need to see this, Julian. Victoria is going to war," Marcus hissed, pointing at a leaked promotional blurb for Victoria's exclusive story. "She's not just denying the audit. She's calling Cassandra manipulative and dragging the marriage through the mud. She's going to use the pregnancy against her." Julian's face went white. "She can't do that. That's a direct attack on Cassandra's character. She knows how private Cassandra is." "She's desperate, Julian. She's fighting for her survival. And you know what the worst part is? Some of what she says about your marriage is what you told her." Julian felt a fresh wave of self-disgust. His own complaining had armed his enemy. He knew Cassandra would never respond to the tabloid. He was the only one who could stop the bleeding. Julian must act quickly to protect Cassandra from Victoria's tabloid story. If you were Julian, would you A. issue a public counterstatement defending Cassandra, or B. personally confront Victoria to buy Cassandra time? Explain your strategic choice in the comments. Scene 4. Cassandra's cold front. Cassandra received the heads-up about Victoria's impending tabloid story from her mother, who was monitoring the gossip blogs. Her initial reaction was a terrifying calmness. She sat in the living room, looking out at the immaculate lawn. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about malicious intent and the protection of her unborn child from public toxicity. She picked up the phone and called her lawyer, Ms. Evelyn Shaw. "The tabloid story is coming," Cassandra stated, her voice devoid of panic. "I want to be clear, Ms. Shaw. I will not comment on my marriage. But if Victoria Cruz mentions the pregnancy or my child, or makes any direct false claim of manipulation against me, I want you to initiate a defamation lawsuit immediately." "It will be messy, Mrs. Vance." "Messy is fine," Cassandra replied. "But I need one more thing. I need a statement ready from Julian, defending me. That is so utterly convincing it crushes Victoria's narrative before it even starts. Not an apology to me, a defense of the woman he humiliated." Ms. Shaw hesitated. "Do you want me to contact him?" "No," Cassandra said firmly. "He has to offer it. If he truly chooses to protect me and his child over his pride, he will find a way to offer a statement to my lawyer without being asked. It's his final chance to prove he understands the meaning of sacrifice." The ball was back in Julian's court. He had made a choice to protect Cassandra's heart, but now he had to make the choice to protect her honor in the most public and damaging arena possible. Cassandra, the unforgiving judge, was waiting for his final, defining move. Julian is under the gun. He must publicly sacrifice his pride to save Cassandra's honor. Find out if he can deliver the ultimate defense in Part 8, the ultimate sacrifice. Don't forget to share this dramatic turning point. Part 8, the ultimate sacrifice. This is the moment of truth. Can Julian prove his worth? Hit the like button now, and don't forget to share this defining moment with a friend. Scene 1. The fear of the fall. Julian stood in his sparse, rented condo, the newspaper blurb about Victoria's impending tabloid attack clutched in his hand. The reality of Cassandra's demand, a public statement, unsolicited and given through her lawyer, settled on him with a crushing weight. This wasn't about apologizing for the affair anymore. This was about total self-immolation. A public statement defending Cassandra meant he had to confirm the rumors of a deep marital problem, giving Victoria some credibility, but immediately and fiercely refute her claims of Cassandra's manipulation. Essentially, declare himself the sole perpetrator of all the marriage's failings. It meant sacrificing the last shred of his self-made millionaire dignity. It meant the end of his career as he knew it. He would go down not just as a bad husband, but as a weak, easily manipulated man who was an administrative failure at his own foundation. He spent hours battling his ego. Why was Cassandra making this so hard? Then he remembered his wedding day and the feel of her trembling hand on his arm as he was forced to go. He realized she wasn't making it hard for him. She was ensuring the future stability of their child. Scene 2. The unexpected ally. Julian picked up his phone and called Ms. Evelyn Shaw, Cassandra's attorney. Ms. Shaw, this is Julian Vance. I understand Victoria Cruz is preparing a slanderous piece about Cassandra for the Austin Insider. Yes, Mr. Vance? Ms. Shaw replied coolly. We are aware. My client is prepared to file a massive defamation suit the moment they print. Don't, Julian said. I can crush it faster. I need to give you a statement, a public defense of Cassandra. I want you to release it immediately. Ms. Shaw was silent for a beat. Mr. Vance, Cassandra was clear. This must be an unprompted offer on your part. It is unprompted. I'm calling you, not my own lawyer. I need the media to understand that Cassandra Hayes is the only ethical compass in this entire debacle. I need to protect her and the baby's name. Julian then dictated the statement, a masterpiece of public relations suicide, but ethical truth. He wrote the end of his empire. Scene 3. The Vance statement. Within hours, Ms. Shaw released the statement through major news outlets and on the Vance Foundation website, bypassing Victoria's tabloid completely. The statement was concise, powerful, and devastating to Julian's image. A statement from Julian Vance regarding recent speculation. I, Julian Vance, confirm that my separation from my wife, Cassandra Hayes, is entirely due to my own severe failings, poor judgment, and egregious acts of infidelity and disrespect. I was entrusted with protecting my family and the integrity of the Vance Foundation, and I catastrophically failed on both counts. My wife, Cassandra, is the victim in this matter. She is a woman of unparalleled character, compassion, and moral rectitude. Any suggestion, particularly those originating from Victoria Cruz, that Cassandra is controlling, manipulative, or otherwise responsible for my actions, is a malicious, defamatory, and desperate lie. Cassandra Hayes has acted with grace and honor while enduring my personal and professional recklessness. She is the true guardian of the Vance legacy, and I will ensure that she and our unborn child are protected from any and all public falsehoods. I take full responsibility for the Foundation's financial discrepancies under my tenure, which Cassandra's immediate audit is now correcting. I fully support her actions. I apologize to my wife and to the community for my betrayal. Scene 4. The Queen is silenced. The statement dropped like a bomb. It was so complete, so damning to Julian himself, and so fiercely protective of Cassandra, that it instantly killed Victoria's story. The Austin Insider had nothing left. How could they run an exposé claiming Cassandra was a controlling shrew, when Julian himself had publicly proclaimed her to be a woman of unparalleled character and claimed full responsibility for the divorce? Victoria Cruz was not just defeated. She was annihilated. Julian's public confession, complete with the direct naming and shaming, meant her deals would certainly collapse, and any chance of her having a future in Austin was over. The Vance Cruz Development Fund was dead. Victoria had been so focused on breaking the marriage that she hadn't anticipated Julian would choose to break himself instead to protect his wife. Meanwhile, Cassandra, watching the news from the mansion, finally allowed herself a moment of quiet relief. The coldness in her heart thawed slightly. Julian had been given a test of character, and, at the ultimate cost to himself, he had passed. He had chosen integrity over ego. The judge had seen the sacrifice. But a statement was just a word. The road to forgiveness and co-parenting was paved with more than just a public confession. Tuyet voi, toi rut vui, vi bangtit dien bien kukochuin. Part 9. The Path to Co-Parenting. Julian has sacrificed his empire. Is it enough? Hit the like button and share this story of resilience and redemption. Scene 1. The Lonely Road of Repentance. Julian Vance, stripped of his title, his home, and his ego, was now living in the rented condo. His days, once a blur of high-stakes deals, were now spent cooperating with the Foundation's audit and facing the bleak reality of public scorn. He had passed Cassandra's initial test of character, but he knew that was only the bare minimum. He began reading books on fatherhood, pregnancy, and, most importantly, co-parenting. He avoided the news, focusing only on the future. One afternoon, he received a formal email from Ms. Evelyn Shaw, Cassandra's lawyer, requesting a meeting. The subject line: proposed co-parenting and accountability terms. This was his chance to re-engage, not as a husband, but as a father-to-be. Scene 2. The non-negotiables. The meeting took place in Ms. Shaw's austere law office. Julian was alone. Ms. Shaw was joined by a family law specialist. There was no warmth, only professionalism. "Mr. Vance," Ms. Shaw began, "my client is deeply appreciative of your recent public statement. It saved the Foundation and protected her honor. However, trust is destroyed, and the environment for our client and the child must be paramount. She has established 3 non-negotiable conditions for discussing any co-parenting arrangement." Julian nodded, ready to hear his sentence. The 3 conditions: financial integrity. Julian must immediately establish a separate, irrevocable, independently managed educational and health trust fund for the child. This fund must be solely derived from personal assets, untouched by the Foundation audit, his pre-marriage savings and original stock, ensuring the child's future is completely insulated from any further business fallout or his own poor judgment. Julian must not have access to manage this fund. Therapeutic commitment. Julian must enroll in individual therapy and complete a minimum of 6 months of counseling, focused on impulse control, integrity, and prioritizing relationships over ambition. Quarterly progress reports from the therapist must be shared with Cassandra's lawyer. Physical space and presence. Julian must purchase or rent a separate, suitable residence within a 5-mile radius of the mansion without a security gate or luxury amenities to discourage Victoria or other opportunists. Furthermore, for the remaining months of the pregnancy, he must commit to being available for all scheduled doctor appointments, communicating only through Ms. Shaw's office and maintaining a non-confrontational, respectful presence. Julian listened to the demands. They were strict, controlling, and utterly necessary. They gave Cassandra complete control, financial security, and personal protection. "I agree to all terms," Julian said, without hesitation. "Where do I sign?" He knew this wasn't about control. It was about accountability. If you were advising Cassandra, which of the three conditions would you consider the most crucial for ensuring the child's long-term well-being, and why? Share your legal opinions in the comments. Scene 3. The end of the era. Meanwhile, the saga of Victoria Cruz was quietly drawing to a close. With Julian's public statement confirming her dishonesty and the Foundation's audit freezing her main assets, she was out of options. She had defaulted on several loans and was facing personal bankruptcy. She tried one last time to contact Julian, sending a vicious emotional text, blaming him for her downfall. Julian simply replied, "I apologize for involving you in my mistake. Your choices moving forward are now your own. Do not contact me or Cassandra again." Victoria, seeing her entire empire of ambition crumble, finally fled Austin, leaving behind a trail of debt and disgraced investors. The wolf who had sought to consume the Vance family was gone, defeated by Cassandra's quiet, strategic defense. Scene 4. A new kind of presence. A week later, Julian kept his word. He quickly established the non-profit trust fund, signing away control of his remaining clean assets. He found a respectable, standard family home 2 miles from the mansion and began attending his therapy sessions. His first doctor's appointment was scheduled that Friday. Julian arrived at Dr. Shaw's office 30 minutes early, dressed in a simple button-down shirt and driving his humble rented truck. He looked less like the old Julian and more like the college student Cassandra first fell in love with. Cassandra arrived shortly after. She didn't look at him, but acknowledged him with a brief nod of her head, as dictated by the terms. They sat in the waiting room, miles apart on the velvet couches, yet only feet away from each other. They didn't speak a single word. Julian focused on the magazines. Cassandra focused on her phone. Yet, when the nurse called Cassandra's name, Julian instinctively stood up, following her toward the door. As they walked down the hall, Cassandra looked over her shoulder at him for the first time since the confrontation. Her gaze was not of love, nor was it of hatred. It was simply an acknowledgement, a silent recognition that he was present and that he was keeping his promises. It was the smallest of victories, but Julian felt it deeply. The path back to being a father had begun, not through grand gestures, but through painful, consistent acts of humility and integrity. The ultimate question was, could this new foundation of accountability ever support the weight of the love they once shared? Tuyet voi. Toi rut vui vibentit kochuin. Part 10. The first ultrasound. This is the moment they meet their baby. Hit the like button and share this pivotal step toward co-parenting. Learn. Scene 1. The clinic. 2 weeks later, Julian and Cassandra met again at Dr. Evelyn Shaw's clinic for the first scheduled ultrasound. Julian had been meticulous in adhering to the co-parenting terms. All communication was handled through Ms. Shaw's office, and his new, modest residence was secured. He arrived exactly 5 minutes before the appointment, carrying a single, simple bouquet of white daisies, a flower Cassandra always loved, and a conscious choice over the extravagant roses he once favored. He left them with the receptionist, with a note that read only, "For the nursery." Cassandra was already in the waiting room. She wore a simple dark dress and met his presence with the required neutral acknowledgement. The tension between them was palpable, a dense, silent field of unresolved history. They waited without speaking, the quiet clicking of the clock and the faint sound of talk show television filling the space. Scene 2. The Window of Truce. When they entered the examination room, Julian stood awkwardly near the wall, respecting the distance. Cassandra lay down on the examination table. The room was cold, professional, yet suddenly intimate. The sonographer, a kind, older woman, began the procedure. As the cold gel touched Cassandra's abdomen and the probe started moving, the mood shifted. Julian's focus instantly snapped from the strained distance between them to the small monitor. "There it is," the sonographer said softly, pointing to the screen. Julian involuntarily took a step forward, his breath catching in his throat. On the screen, a tiny, flickering shape, their baby, was visible. The sonographer zoomed in, and the rhythmic, impossibly fast flutter of the heartbeat filled the quiet room. "Everything looks perfect," the technician confirmed. "You're at 12 weeks. Look, you can see the little hands and feet forming." Julian didn't look at Cassandra. He couldn't take his eyes off the screen. For the first time since the night of the scandal, his face lost the shadow of guilt and regret, replaced by an expression of pure, unadulterated awe. He saw the tiny life, utterly dependent on them, and in that moment, the empire, the infidelity, the shame, it all faded into irrelevance. Scene 3. The Unguarded Moment. Cassandra, watching the monitor, felt the familiar surge of maternal love, but she also watched Julian from the corner of her eye. She saw the flicker of his jaw, the sudden sheen in his eyes, as the heartbeat filled the room. She saw the true, honest-to-goodness joy, the same genuine wonder she remembered seeing in his eyes when he won his first major contract years ago, but now directed entirely toward this small, fragile life. "Would you like to hear the heartbeat, Dad?" the technician asked Julian. Julian just nodded, unable to speak. The technician turned up the volume. The rapid, powerful sound of the baby's heart echoed, a promise, a demand, and a relentless rhythm of life. Julian slowly, cautiously, took one more step forward. His hand, shaking slightly, reached out and stopped just inches from Cassandra's shoulder. He didn't touch her, but he leaned in, his entire being focused on the sound. "It's incredible," he finally whispered, the two words raw with emotion. It was the first true, unguarded word he had spoken to her since go. Cassandra, lying there, felt the heat radiating from his hand, the shared gravity of the moment, and the powerful, humbling realization that no matter what happened between them, they were linked forever by that sound. Scene 4. A New Reality. As the appointment ended, the professional wall went back up. Julian stepped back. Cassandra cleaned the gel off, her demeanor returning to the cold neutral she maintained. In the hallway, Julian held the printed ultrasound photo, a blurry, beautiful image of their child. "Cassandra," Julian said softly, using her name for the first time without the formality of a lawyer present. "Thank you for letting me be here. That was everything." Cassandra took the photo from his hand. She looked at him, her eyes steady. "You were here because you fulfilled the terms, Julian," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "This moment was for our child, not for us, and you will continue to fulfill the terms." She paused, then looked down at the photo, the tiniest, almost imperceptible softening around her lips. "We need to discuss the nursery design. Ms. Shaw will send you the schedule for the next meeting. We will keep it strictly business." She then walked away, leaving Julian standing alone with the white daisies and the echoing sound of a tiny, fiercely beating heart. He had earned his place in the baby's life, but the distance to Cassandra's heart was still the longest journey of all. Tuyet voi, toi rut vui, vibantit dien bien kukochuin. Part 11. The Final Verdict. The Compromise. Reminder. This is it. Will they reconcile or choose separate paths? Hit the like button and share this defining conclusion with someone who loves a complex love story. Scene 1. The final test of integrity. The months that followed the ultrasound were defined by quiet, unyielding accountability. Julian attended every doctor's appointment, kept his distance, and provided immaculate therapy reports. He focused all his remaining energy on the nursery in his small rented house, building the furniture himself, a physical manifestation of his commitment. Cassandra, however, remained distant. She acknowledged his efforts but never allowed emotional access. She had one final, unresolved matter: the Vance mansion. The house represented the pinnacle of his ambitious, self-centered life and the place where the ultimate betrayal occurred. One evening, Julian received a meeting request from Ms. Shaw. The subject: disposition of marital residence. Julian arrived at Ms. Shaw's office expecting a forced sale and a division of assets. Instead, Cassandra was there, sitting alone. "Julian," Cassandra began, her voice calm. "The foundation audit is complete. Your cooperation protected us, and the trust fund is secure. You've passed every test of accountability." "Thank you, Cassandra. But trust is not accountability. The mansion, Julian, that house is not a home. It is a monument to your ambition, and it is poisoned for me. I cannot raise our child there." "I understand," Julian said quietly. "If you want to sell it, I will sign the papers immediately. You take the full proceeds for you and the baby." Cassandra shook her head. "No, that is a financial transaction. I need a moral resolution." Scene 2. The ultimate sacrifice. "Julian," Cassandra looked him in the eye, "if you truly choose integrity and family over ego, you will do this. You will take the mansion, the monument of your ambition, and donate it entirely to the Vance Foundation. We can convert it into the new Hayes Vance Community Youth Center." The demand hit Julian with force. The mansion was the largest, most visible asset of his former life, worth millions, a symbol of everything he had achieved. Donating it meant walking away from the one thing that still represented his power. "You're asking me to give away my home," Julian stated, his voice tight. "I'm asking you to sacrifice your past for your future," Cassandra corrected. "I want to see you tear down the monument to your infidelity and replace it with a testament to your repentance. I will use the foundation funds to build a simple, clean, suitable home for me and our child nearby. If you do this, Julian, I will know your conversion is real." Julian leaned back. He felt the old Julian, the ambitious shark, screaming in protest. But then he thought of the tiny heartbeat and Cassandra's tired, resolute face. "I agree," Julian said, the words heavy but firm. "Draft the papers. I want a small plaque outside the youth center recognizing Cassandra Hayes for her vision." Cassandra simply nodded. "Then we have a path forward. Julian is giving away his mansion. What do you think this final sacrifice tells Cassandra about his commitment to her versus his commitment to their child? Share your analysis in the comments." Scene 3. The compromise and the future. 3 months later, the Julian Vance residence was officially transformed into the new Hayes Vance Youth Center. Julian, having signed the final papers, had truly purged the last vestige of his toxic empire. Cassandra, meanwhile, moved into the new, modest home she had built. The nursery was complete, and she was in her final trimester. One afternoon, Julian arrived, unannounced, and without his lawyer, holding a small package. Cassandra let him in. The atmosphere was still tense, but absent the hostility. "I wanted you to have this," Julian said, handing her a key. "It's the key to the new house. I want you to know I won't use it, but I want you to have it. I also brought this." He handed her the small package. It was a new, engraved lint roller, the useless talisman he once dismissed her with. The engraving read, "Always prepared, always enough." Cassandra looked at the lint roller, and a genuine, if sad, smile touched her lips. He remembered. He understood. "Julian," she said, finally breaking the long silence about their future. "We are not reconciling. I cannot be your wife again. The betrayal was too deep." Julian nodded, accepting the truth. "But," she continued, "you have proven your accountability to our child. You chose integrity over ambition. You have a key, but you must continue to earn your presence. You have earned your place as our child's father. You are welcome here, in this home, as our co-parent. Nothing more." Julian felt a wave of profound relief and quiet grief. He had lost the marriage, but he had secured the most vital part of his future. "I accept those terms, Cassandra," he said. "I will never stop earning my place." He walked over to the completed nursery, now filled with natural light, and gently touched the crib he had built. He stood there, the disgraced millionaire, humbled, reborn, and ready to be a father. He had traded an empire for a home, and in doing so, he finally found the integrity he had lost.